X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z. I'm Zack, and with me this week is a co-host I'm especially excited for. We were talking off mic and realized he has been on this show 3 other times, but never as a ranker, which is buck wild to me. You may know him from the podcast Chris's on Infinite Earths, or from writing for XavierFiles.com. He's really smart and really funny. It's Chris Eddleman. Chris, how are we doing today?
Wow, really smart and really funny. Oh, it's nice to hear some nice compliments from you, Zach. I'm doing well.
That is so good. Normally I give you bad compliments and criticism and saying, write better. You're so bad. Do you know how much money I have writing on this, Christopher? And so I wanted to balance that out.
Oh, well,
at least
you.
on air.
It's nice to not be yelled at for once. As we all know, just like in old Marvel, the Xavier Files bullpen is a physical location where we all sit and Zach smokes cigars all day and yells at us.
It's true. It's true. Because some of you forced me to do things for this podcast and read a lot of stories that have so many parts to them and are a nightmare, and I have to literally change my rules of my Patreon so that no one ever does this to me again.
Who do we have to thank for this one, Zach?
This week, we have to thank Patreon supporter Jason Kirby. That's right, the king himself went over to patreon.com/XavierFiles. He threw some money this way for this podcast and said, guys, Zach, Adam, who is not with us right now, but he's with us in the astral plane that connects us all. I feel
Adam.
I feel Adam in this podcast room tonight.
Yes.
Jason said, guys, you know about Onslaught, right? Y'all heard about Onslaught? And we said, dang it. So we're talking about Onslaught tonight, and here's the thing. Chris is my friend, and he doesn't owe me any favors. In fact, I probably owe him more favors. But I said, do you want to talk about a really big Marvel event since you're the events podcast guy?
Oh, Zach, I thought we were going to talk about the author of 10 years or so of Amazing Spider-Man and Silver Surfer. I thought we were going to do a podcast on Slot.
I hate you so much. No. Regardless of the fact that he was working at Marvel at this time, Dan Slott does not appear in this crossover, but everyone else does.
Everyone else, every single other person working at Marvel had a hand in this. It seems like.
We're talking about professional comic book writer Scott Lobdell. We're talking about angry guy with a good heart, Mark Waid. We've got some Kuberts in here. We've got some Magieras. We got guy who invented both Daredevil and the Inhumans TV shows specifically, Jeff Loeb. We've got just... Y'all...
We have 2-time GLAAD Award winner Peter David.
Peter David's in this one. Tom DeFalco, he makes an appearance. There's so much. Carlos Pacheco, he's in this. Mike Deodato Jr., he's here.
That's correct. You already said multiple Kuberts. Yep, we're on the many Kuberts train.
Larry Hama, he's in this joint.
We've got Joe Mad, of course.
Joe Mad's here. Val Zemeckis, they're here. Ian Churchill, Ian's all up in this.
Yeah, it's this was like the proto, like line-wide crossover. I feel like
this, yes, and it did a bad job, and we're going to explain that in a second.
We sure are.
It did such a bad job that the only beverage that I could bring to the table for this disaster is the Bud Premium Ice. The big one. This is the 25-ounce can that my father left in the fridge for Christmas, and it's the only beer I have.
All right, hit it, Zach.
Get that ASMR up in here.
Oh, the pod fluid is a-flowing tonight.
It tastes like sadness and disappointment and 5.5 lager.
Well, Onslaught's not that different.
No, that's why I think the beer's thematically appropriate. So, first question. How do we chop up Onslaught into 3 discrete units?
Very, very carefully and not quite arbitrarily, but we did chop this up into the main Onslaught title, which we are going to call Onslaught X-Men. We've got the Cable Hulk kind of mini crossover that we're just going to be calling Onslaught Cable. And then
Yeah, well, Cable does other stuff afterwards. Hulk show up, and then Hulk go away.
That's true. I still read the Hulk where Hulk go away. I should have done that.
I didn't. Do you know how many comics we had to read for this? Like 25.
It was a lot. I read it all in the car on the way to St. Louis.
Oh, your poor wife, Christy. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did this to you. And Jason Kirby is sorry that he did this to you too. He didn't know. He thought it was going to be Adam.
Sorry, Jason Kirby. And then we've got the third discrete set, which we are calling a story, the X-Force / X-Man crossover.
X-Man's in this one, guys. There's your update. He's in this one. We're going to talk about him 2 weeks in a row because I love my life.
This is some kind of premium X-Man content. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, this is core X-Man. So, but first, we've got to eat our vegetables before we get to our dessert. And our vegetables are the main Onslaught crossover. Now, this is what we are calling the main Onslaught crossover. Get your pencils out. You've got X-Men 53 and 54, Uncanny X-Men 334, 335, Onslaught X-Men #1, Avengers 401, Fantastic Four 415. Then we move on down to nothing in book 2, because all of that is tie-ins. Then book 3 is X-Men 55, Uncanny X-Men 336. And then book 4 is X-Men 56 and Onslaught Marvel Universe #1. Oddly enough, Onslaught Epilogue doesn't count.
Nope.
Not part of this.
We're not even thinking about it.
Oh, also there's a random Wolverine story. Wolverine 104 is in this too.
Ooh. Yeah? Yeah.
I told you to read that one. It's okay if you didn't.
I think I did. They're all kind of blending together a little bit.
So the main people behind Onslaught are Mark Waid, professional comic book writer Scott Lobdell. It's Andy Kubert. Is it Andy or Adam? Crap.
They were both in there.
Okay, that's why I couldn't tell. It's Kubert's. And then Joe Madureira. And it's a mess. So it starts as an X-Men story. And Chris, how about you give a pie in the sky, 1,000-foot view? What happens in this Onslaught?
You know, from everybody talking about it and what a mess it was, I thought more was going to happen.
Oh, because nothing happens.
Kinda?
They spend like 5 issues moping around the X-Mansion when it's very obvious that Onslaught is now Professor X. Like,
they do
telegraphed, and we spend a very long time talking about how evil Professor X was before they realized that he was Onslaught.
I may have to shoot this entire book to the bottom because it reminds us of that tiny little panel that even Stan Lee decided was a bad idea, where Professor Xavier had the hots for Jean and was like, but I can't tell her because I'm in a wheelchair. And then we all just forgot about it. It was good. Nobody mentioned it again, and they had to bring it up again.
I blame Mark Waid for this, as I do everything.
Everything. Oh, yep. My favorite ice cream place was closed tonight. We went out for ice cream. That's Mark Waid's fault.
Mark Waid, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
Man, that first issue was completely wild. It was kind of like the Christmas Carol, but just bringing up bad X-Men stuff.
Yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Past in this case was Onslaught, and our Ebenezer was, in fact, Jean Grey. She is not liking this revelation.
Nope. I'm not either.
I'm not either. Talks to the X-Men about stuff. While Professor X is acting weird, he calls them to his chambers and he's like, I am Onslaught, and then turns into Onslaught.
Yeah, a better version of this revelation was I am the third man from Planetary. This was a poor version of that.
I've never read Planetary. I know it's good. Never read it.
Yeah, it's good. It's, we don't have to go into it.
It's Warren Ellis and John Cassaday. It sounds like my jam.
It is. I feel like it'd be your jam. It's also very much about comics.
Oh my gosh, give that to me. That's January Hoopla right there. I've been putting it off.
Yep. Oh yeah, it is on Hoopla. That's where I read it. Onslaught is Professor X with the so it's like a Professor X and Magneto sourdough, where the Magneto Seiichi was kind of the mother, and Professor X was just kind of your nice fermentation material until you eventually got a delightful sourdough, and that's Onslaught. It's how he becomes like a giant hulking Magneto monster is whatever, I guess.
It happens, and I don't understand. I've read it.
It's apparently made of psychicness, the armor, because they keep calling it like psi armor or something.
Sure.
They use a lot of psi dash word in this era, it seems like. I feel like it's a Lobdell thing, but I could be wrong. When I was a kid, I guess when I was a young teenager, maybe, because Onslaught had happened and it was in this.
It was in 96, by the way, guys.
Sure, 1996 was yeah. So I was a little older. One of my favorite things to get from the library was the big Marvel encyclopedia because I didn't have the internet yet.
Right.
Onslaught always looked super, super dope to me because I was a kid and he's a big hulking Magneto. Reading this comic makes him look worse because the really like most used image of him where his face is in shadow, kind of neat. And then later you see him and he kind of looks like a Gumby monster. Like his face is just more red. He's like super evil Magneto Baymax.
Yeah, that's about right. And because he's so evil, the X-Men cannot do this alone, and they sent out an SOS. So guess who shows up? That's right, it's the Avengers.
Yeah, and they're mostly the Avengers, like that if you're fans of like the movie.
Yeah, you got Quicksilver's in this one. You got the Vision. You've got Captain America. You've got Thor, and you've got Teen Tony. The idea so bad that they had to reboot the Marvel Universe.
Yep. Scarlet Witch is there. Wasp is there.
Oh yeah, Wasp is there. I forgot with her no lines.
Wasp gets nothing. Janet fans, this is not for you.
Yeah, Jan fans, you might want to stay away from this. But the Avengers do run into Rogue and the enigmatic Joseph.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me that this comic has young hot Magneto as opposed to old hot Magneto, which is just normal Magneto.
There's a comic with young hot Magneto and young hot Iron Man teenage boy. If only Teen Cable could be in this.
Oh man, the teen team.
Oh my gosh, give me the bad teen versions of all of my favorite characters.
Well, you could argue that X-Man is kind of a teen version of Cable.
I would argue that 100 days of the week.
And he's in the main stuff too, not just his own title.
He shows up and then he disappears to his own title. I guess he was hanging out with the Avengers for a hot second. That's true.
Yeah, he was imprisoned for a little bit. Because another really important part of this title is Onslaught has these nebulous plans to change the world to be better for mutants, but he's real mad about it. And he's going to use Franklin Richards' reality warping and X-Man's reality warping powers to do so.
Yeah, he kidnaps them both.
Yeah, and kind of like he kind of eats them.
Yeah, he vores them and keeps them in his Onslaught belly and says, guys, you're going to recreate the universe with us. And one of them does that, only he makes a universe on the other side of the Earth, or of the sun, excuse me. And that's Counter-Earth, and that's where the Heroes Reborn live.
Yep, and that Heroes Reborn, I think, has less issues than this entire crossover.
It's close.
It's pretty close.
We're going to talk about Heroes Reborn some other time on this podcast. Not right now, because we got a lot of ground to cover, folks.
Yeah, we sure do.
Go Google it. It's wild.
It's completely wild.
Anyway, Onslaught decides I'm going to bring a bunch of Sentinels in here to protect myself in New York City for reasons. And then the X-Men and the Avengers team up to stop him, but they find out that they have to, absorb themselves inside of him.
The humans, though. Yep.
Only the humans can do it. The mutants can't, except for Scarlet Witch, because of chaos magic.
She's the Pretender, Zach. We know this. The Pretender.
Yeah, but so is Quicksilver, and he explicitly ran into the wall and couldn't get in.
We don't think about that these days.
And then Onslaught gets beaten. That's it.
Yeah, and that takes a shocking amount of issues to do.
It's very boring. Let's talk about how these issues are lined up as an event. Because you got Impact issues and you got Phase issues.
And I'm not sure what the difference is. I think Phase is supposed to be main stuff and Impact is supposed to be side stuff.
Yeah. Yes, but then also that's not how it works and it's bad.
Right. Our friend Trent Seeley did a really good article about Onslaught, where he kind of lines out that this makes absolutely no sense. And I kind of read a little bit of that while I was reading the issues, and I was like, no, he's right. This makes no sense.
No, he's on it. There's a lot of you. There's going to be a contingent of you who's like, but I read Onslaught when I was 10 and I thought it was great. And that's great. And keep those memories. Keep them close to your heart. Cherish them and never, ever read this comic again. It's a disaster. It's a mess. For some people, the art is a big saving point. And as much as I think the Kuberts are neat, I'm not a Joe Mad fan. He's just not my guy.
I like Joe Mad. I thought the art was definitely better than the plotting, but I think that to some extent the art couldn't save it because there just wasn't a whole lot of forward momentum. And so I feel like some of these really superstar artists were wasted in ways that they aren't all the time. Even something like Phalanx Covenant, which had Joe Mad and Adam Kubert, was infinitely better in terms of art because they actually got to do cool stuff with it.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of just standing around and talking about Onslaught and recapping other issues and then telling you to go read this one issue or this one weird subplot from a few years ago and how important it is.
They really tried to get the Guinness Book of World Records award for most amount of editor's notes, and it would be stuff like, go read X-Men #4, which I feel like was really hard to do in 1996.
Yeah, there's talk about, oh, by the way, Beast is in this, but he's not really Beast. He's actually Dark Beast. From Age of Apocalypse. You should probably read all of that, and then you should probably read X-Men Unlimited #10, where Dark Beast and Beast switched places. And then if you want to follow Dark Beast's story like we don't do in this episode, you got to go read the X-Factor tie-ins, where he tries to recruit Post and some other people, and it doesn't go well.
There's a bad guy named Post.
Yeah.
And he's referenced several times, and I don't know, I've never read anything with Post, Zach. For a guy who wrote... or co-wrote rather, a small novel length on X-Men. I don't know who Post is. I've never heard of him before.
We'll talk about Post later in our private bullpen. I'll do a Post quiz for everyone. He's the harbinger of Onslaught because Juggernaut was not a good enough harbinger, so Onslaught has a second harbinger named Post.
Well, the whole Onslaught saga was conceived. The whole idea was they find Juggernaut in the front yard and he just says Onslaught. And then that was literally the elevator pitch.
It tells you a lot about Marvel in the mid-90s and how much money they could get away with just wasting when that's the whole pitch. And they said, yeah, who's Onslaught? I don't know.
Yeah, they came up with that later.
Know.
Just the word Onslaught was enough of a pitch.
And yet between that and the sexual harassment, Scott Lobdell still gets work to this day. I have no idea.
Dude wrote Happy Death Day.
Dude wrote Happy Death Day to you.
The sequel. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's no more Happy Death Days to do this bit. Onslaught's bad, guys. So, Chris, we've talked about this for a while. Should we rank it? We're going to have to keep talking about Onslaught.
We should rank this. Weirdly enough, I think that this is not the worst of these. And I think it's mostly because I thought the art kind of saved it in a ways that the ones we will be talking about later did not. But it's still not good. So let's just...
No, it's not good. Let's talk about this list though for one hot second.
Yep.
Because there's 318 stories on this list. The number 1 is Dark Phoenix Saga. The number 100 on this list is All New Dupe, because we have had something not break the top 100 in a while, and it's not happening on this episode.
Not tonight, folks.
Number 200 is the X-Men Gold One Shot. Number 300 on this list is Magneto Rex. And 318 is the Draco, which somebody on this podcast made me read once.
It was me.
Yeah, well, it's a bad story, and I hate it, and it's bad, and it's better. It's not as bad as it's better than Onslaught's better than it.
Onslaught is better than it. I'd say Onslaught is better than Onslaught's maybe bottom 20. It's mostly just boring, but it's mostly just boring over a long period of time, which I feel like makes it so egregious. 4 issues of boring is not 20 issues of boring.
Onslaught's very long, and it's not fun to read, really. There's no, like, the difference between Onslaught and something like, let's say, Executioner's Song, which I don't love as much as some people do. I'm sorry, I know there's some big Executioner's Song fans out there.
It's better than this.
Oh, yeah, Executioner's Song better than this. Executioner's Song has a driving through line of a story throughout the whole thing, and it's not this weird nebulous event that's kind of happening, and everyone's just doing things around it like Onslaught is. Because Onslaught doesn't have a story. Onslaught has a pitch of evil Charles Xavier Magnetos here, and then what happens? I don't know. Let's have 40 books talk about it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'm looking at these bottom ones here. It is definitely worse than Phalanx Covenant Life Signs, which I consider pretty bad.
Yeah, Phalanx Covenant Life Sign pretty bad. So you haven't read this one, I know, Chris. But X-Men 34 to 36 Messiah Complex that we talked about last week with Chris Hassan, I think this is better than that.
Yeah, I don't know if... I think it's better than Excalibur 1 through 4. No, never mind. I think it's worse than Excalibur 1 through 4. Sorry.
To be clear, this is Excalibur 1 through 4, Volume 3, with Chris Claremont on...
Oh, I don't know then. I was going to say, I thought the first 4 issues of Excalibur were pretty good, but that's Volume 1.
If we're talking about that Claremont Davis, that stuff's not in the bottom 300.
No,
that stuff good.
Well, I was like, man, they really put this low, huh?
Yeah. What podcast ranking comics could hate on the Claremont Davis Excalibur?
It's hard to.
Who could do such a thing?
You can't. Yeah. Okay. I think not knowing much about the Volume 3 of Excalibur, this, if you want to call Onslaught better than X-Men number 34 through 36, I'm gonna call that good. But it's pretty. It's pretty awful.
Have you read the first 6 issues of X Factor?
The first 6 issues of
X Factor ever,
Volume 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it better or worse than that?
No, I think it's worse than that.
In that case, I'm going to say that this is probably better than... It's probably better than Spider-Man X Factor Shadow Games. Probably... It's not as good as the first 3 issues of X-Men when he comes to the 616 and the Man Who Fell to Earth.
All right. Well, that's our spot then.
Man, I didn't know that Onslaught would get its place decided by my weird affection for X-Man, even though I admit and loudly claim that he's garbage.
No, dude, young Chris, and this wasn't even that young. This would have been like 14 or 15-year-old Chris. I loved X-Man. I thought he was great. To me, he was like the hero of Age of Apocalypse. I definitely don't think that now, but man, did I love X-Man.
Let's talk about old X-Man, or as I call him, Cable.
Yeah, that's what we call him here. We call him Cable.
Cable is the star of the next section of our podcast. That is the Cable parts of this story. Cable 34, Incredible Hulk 444, Cable 35, and Cable 36.
Yes.
This is written by Jeff Loeb with the Incredible Hulk by Peter David. Ian Churchill does most of the art, with Angel Medina doing the Incredible Hulk part, and Bernard Chang doing the last issue for Cable.
I was super pumped for one issue of this because it had this really cool stinger, which said Cable versus Apocalypse. Boy, was that sad.
So Cable fight Hulk.
Cable do fight Hulk.
Because Hulk get confused and work for Onslaught for a hot second.
Yeah, this is smart Hulk too. He's not like he's not kind of your Hulk strongest there is Hulk.
There's a weird joke, and I don't know if it works, where he goes Hulk smash and he jokes and he says, "I'm just kidding. I haven't talked like that." On the next page, I haven't talked like that in years. What are you doing?
It was confusing for me because I had just read him in, I think, the main stuff a little bit, and I was like, "That's not how he talks." And then I was like, "Oh, he's doing yucks. He's doing bits."
Yeah, this is jokey Hulk. You got Gray Hulk. Mm-hmm. You've got the Maestro Hulk. You've got Rulk, of course, and now you've got Devil Hulk. Obviously, we can't forget Devil Hulk. Now you have this new Hulk, and it's Hulk who does bits.
It's bits Hulk. All he does,
all day, every day, he's yucking up yucks, making funnies at people.
Well, he punches Cable like really far, like does like one of those like cartoon style punches, and Cable like sails through the air.
He does a big punch on Cable, and Cable, for his part, is having a rough time because the techno-organic virus is going wild in his blood.
Yeah, this is purported to be some sort of end stage on the techno-organic virus. I'm not sure what's causing it, but this seemed to be the time where things like this happened. Like for a while, we had Wolverine, and then his healing factor got overtaxed, and you thought this was going to be some Wolverine endgame, and then that went away. This seems like that, but for Cable.
Can I tell you how it happened?
Please.
It happened in the past.
In the past?
In the before times of this story.
Oh, sure. I thought you maybe meant like he was hanging out in Victorian times.
No, he was hanging out somewhere, and then he had a psychic connection to Nate Gray, and they had a Dragon Ball Z fight.
Did they shoot lasers?
Dude, I'm not joking. It's a Dragon Ball Z fight. That's what it is.
Sweet.
It's which one is Trunks' kid? Or which kid is Trunks? I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, but Trunks is the Cable one, right?
Trunks is basically Cable. And by that I mean I'm not sure which came first, but there was probably some theft.
So I'm going to say, is he Vegeta's kid?
He is Vegeta's kid from the future.
This is like Trunks and Vegeta fighting. Or I guess Baby Trunks and Old Man Trunks fighting.
That sounds kind of dope.
Yeah, I don't know what Dragon Ball Z is. I'm shocked that I know who Trunks is. I think I just know him because I know he's a Cable.
Trunks is a Cable. He even has light hair.
Oh my gosh, this is very good. I assume he has yellow spiky hair. And anyway, they do a Dragon Ball Z punch, and afterwards Cable's like, my arm's all crazy and it's spiky now.
And there it is. Huh.
Anyway, him and Hulk fight to no end for 2 issues, and it's boring.
It's to take him off the table because Cable's cool. I don't know. He's good at this. Cable is like the most competent X-Man, I feel like.
Cable might be the most competent person in this entire story of Onslaught, with the sole exception of Apocalypse, who we haven't mentioned in the main story, has kind of been hanging out with the Watcher, just looking at everything.
Yeah, and before that, he was hanging out with a man made of stone who's Ozymandias, who is not the Ozymandias from popular DC property Watchmen or popular DC property television show Watchmen.
Are you talking about Ozymandias looks upon my mighty works in despair?
Yeah.
Are you talking about that one? Are you talking about Apocalypse's eternal slave who tried to kill him while he was a slave in Egypt, but Apocalypse evolved past him and arose and turned Ozymandias into stone, and then Ozymandias' sister was kind of attracted to Apocalypse, but then she saw his weird lips, and then she was horrified of him, so then Apocalypse was really angry, and then 80 years later comes back, and he's still Apocalypse, and she's old, and he makes fun of her?
Yeah, that's the one.
Are you talking about Ozymandias who betrayed Apocalypse in the blood of Apocalypse because he was tired of Apocalypse being mean to him after millennia, and then sent Apocalypse to go live with Celestials or whatever?
I mean, you're making Big Papa Pock look pretty bad here, but yeah, that's the one. Now he's a mummy guy, kind of, or like made of stone or dirt.
Yeah, he's a rock man.
He's a rock man.
He's the Ozymandias statue from the poem Ozymandias.
He definitely is, which was first referenced in Marvel Comics in like some Ultron story really early on. And then they made him a real guy. I wonder if that's ever come up.
I don't know if it's his history or legend or whatever, but like that's a real thing. Like Ozymandias was a real thing in the past.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
For sure. It is it's a sonnet by Percy Shelley.
Yeah, it was based on like some Egyptian king. I think Ramses II or something. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
No,
don't at me.
You got it right. That was the name in Greek.
Oh, dope. Man, look at me knowing my Shelley. Anyway,
well, he's a total punk here. He's just and he doesn't do anything.
Oh, he's the worst. He's the worst. He never does anything. Mm-hmm. Apocalypse and Cable are supposed to fight, and it's supposed to be their big showdown because Cable's entire mission in life is to murder Apocalypse real good.
We've never gotten a good follow-up on that.
He stabs him with the scimitar once, but it's Apocalypse's ghost that he stabs because his ghost is possessing Scott Summers, and it's not what you want it to be.
It's just not. The cartoon promised me more.
It did. The comics promised us more. Everything has promised us this more. And this fight is, again, a letdown because they more just kind of talk.
Yeah, they have a chat. And then it kind of turns into Apocalypse was really, really, really willing to kill a kid. He was just willing to kill a boy. And Cable's like...
Oh, yeah, they team up. They team up to save Franklin Richards. And Apocalypse is like, no, we got to kill this child, people. Onslaught's using him, and I don't like Onslaught.
So we got to do a kid murder. And Cable's like, we are strictly against kid murders here in the X-Men.
Yeah, and the Invisible Woman is here, and she says, we are strictly against murdering my good child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because she kind of goes undercover and then de-invisibles, but they're maybe also in the astral plane.
Again, guys, I know
this was
I
less
know
clear
so
than I wanted
much.
it to be.
I know so much of Onslaught sounds like we're just making things up on the fly. This is as coherent as we can make this story.
Yeah, like they're supposed to be like in space, kind of like in astral plane space, which I don't know how Apocalypse gets there. I didn't think he was a telekinetic guy or a telepathic guy, but then
he's old, he's ancient, he is as far beyond you as mutants are beyond humans.
That's true. He's got me there. But yeah, the Invisible Woman shows up too, since it is her kid and all.
And then the fight doesn't end. Like, they just kind of all peter out because Franklin has to be there for the actual end of Onslaught.
Yeah, this is kind of a little loop from one part of the story to the other. It is like the strict definition of a side story.
Yeah, but then Cable's in bad shape after this because of the TO virus, and then his friends get together and make him better. And he thinks that that's nice, and that's the end of his arc.
That's right. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, it was sweet. Good for Cable. See, here's what I like. I like the Ian Churchill art here, and I really do like the voice that Jeff Loeb has for Cable and Apocalypse.
Yeah, that did work for me.
The plot's nonsense.
Completely ridiculous.
The Hulk stuff is nonsense.
Yeah, I read it later and I didn't understand it.
It's just... It's a story. It exists, and we should move on. Is it better than Onslaught Prime?
No, I don't... Well, I don't know. The Cable stuff is pretty good. It focuses on characters well.
Chris, let me ask this. Let's not compare it to Onslaught Prime for a second. Let's take Onslaught, put him in my back pocket.
Sure, Onslaught's in the pocket.
Onslaught in the pocket. Is it... Would you rather read this again or Phalanx Covenant Life Signs?
I have a weird soft spot for Life Signs, but I would probably this Cable thing because I'm a big Cable guy.
I like me some Cable. Hey, Chris.
No, Life Signs is really bad. The more I think about it,
yeah. You got to remember, Life Signs is trash. This is not better than Wildcats X-Men, which is at 278.
Fair. I have not read that. I would need to read Wildcats first.
You're the Star Trek boy. Have you read the Star Trek stories?
No, I was gonna wait because I expected to be on this podcast for it, and then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll read them later.
I told you explicitly that timing wasn't gonna work because we had to do that ahead of C2E2.
No, and that was a wild time, Zach. A lot was going on.
It was a wild time.
Uh-huh.
I think this is better than those, but probably not better than X-Men #3, Beware the Blob.
No, that's still... Beware the Blob is actually pretty good. For being bad.
Yeah, Beware the Blob is bad, though. This is right below that, but above Star Trek. Let's make this 285. It's Onslaught Cable.
Yeah, okay.
And now, the moment you've all been waiting for.
X-Force X-Man.
X-Force X-Man. This is X-Man 18 to 19 and X-Force 57 and 58. It is written by Terry Kavanagh and Jeff Loeb with pencils by Steve Skroki and Anthony Castrillo. So this is a two-parter that then has a third part to the story, but the third part's separate for each character.
Yes, it is two together and then they separate off. Boy, I am not super fond of X-Force without Cable, Richter, or Richter wasn't in this, right? I don't remember
Richter's not in this. He left at this point.
Yeah, this doesn't have Cable or Richter or Cannonball because he was in the main title at this point. And boy, that makes this a little tougher to read for me.
See, this is Purple Era X-Force, which I have a weird amount of fondness for. This team is Domino, Caliban, Meltdown /Boomer /Boom Boom / Dr. McSplode. Shatterstar's on the team. Sunspot's on the team. Warpath rejoins the team because he was out hanging out with Risque.
Is it Risque or Risk?
It's Risque.
Oh.
It's very much Risque.
Okay. I know it's spelled Risque, but I wondered if they were
It's Risque. She is Risque.
Okay.
Siren's also on this team. I like Purple X-Force.
I feel like Domino got to be some really good Team Mom, which was kind of fun.
That's what I want. There we go. You found what I like in X-Force.
Yeah.
Shatterstar gets to stab. Domino gets to be Team Mom.
Shatterstar didn't get to stab near enough.
Okay, but yeah, in one of these issues, Shatterstar does get to dream that he's hanging out like open button shirt on a hillside in idyllic fairyland.
Yeah, they're like, "This is what you like," and he's like, "Yeah, man."
This is what Shatterstar wants to do with his life.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, before we get to that, we should probably talk about the X-Man portion, which even though I read, have a terrible memory of.
X-Man and Cable's team of X-Force are kind of hanging out. They said, yeah, Cable's busy doing his own crossover.
So they decided they're doing a big fight with Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They do a big fight with Mr. Sinister because Mr. Sinister is like, oh, alternate universe me did a good job here. I would like to know more.
He did click the "Do you desire to know more" button. I always kind of like that Mr. Sinister appreciates a lot of the other work that other Mr. Sinisters do.
Look, because Sinister is a system. He's not greedy. He does not have a weird sense of self. He has a universal sense of self, which is I like to think kind of a beautiful thing.
It's great.
So they get into a big fight with Mr. Sinister. He talks about how he wants to know more about Nate Gray, and all of X-Force is like, no, he's with us now. Let's shoot and bang and blow up. And there's a big fight. And then eventually they all get separated. Mr. Sinister does get X-Man, and they just talk for a little bit before X-Man gets away.
Yeah, X-Man just kind of does like a "I'll never join you" thing, and that's kind of what we get from that.
Yeah, and then the X-Force, they get stuck in the astral plane for a hot second thanks to Onslaught, and everyone has, like, dreams. And everyone jumps through each other's dreams.
Yeah, they kind of have a, like, this is what your life would be like if it was good.
Right. Like, Warpath gets to hang out with his brother.
Yes.
Hunting buffalo.
Which, yeah, there was that. Shatterstar hangs out on a hill.
Bobby DaCosta's girlfriend didn't get murdered.
Yeah, it goes back to that first soccer game.
When she was 14 at a soccer game. Oh my gosh. New Mutants.
Completely wild.
Oh, and his dad's proud of him.
Yeah, because that's not true in real life.
And that's when he realized that this was
He's
fake.
like, wait, my dad is never proud of me.
My dad doesn't like me.
But then it gets weird in that they all decide they need to leave this and like go toward the light. But that is like a second layer of trap.
Yeah, it's Inception.
Yeah.
There's dreams among dreams.
Does Onslaught do this to anybody else? Absolutely not. Only X-Force.
No, Jeff Loeb just wanted to talk about like a character building thing for X-Force and like who are these guys? And I can respect that.
Yeah,
Jeff Loeb makes a lot of bad comics. He also has made a lot of good comics, and this one's right in the middle.
It's pretty low stakes. I think the X-Force X-Men stuff X-Man stuff is pretty expendable compared to the two little separate issues.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was at least like a distillation of character in a way that nothing else that we've talked about tonight really is.
Yeah, it tried to at least say something, which actually about Onslaught Prime, that's probably the most damning thing about it is it says nothing about anyone except for maybe Xavier sucks.
Yeah, and there's that phrase like it says nothing but loudly. I don't even think this does that.
Well, it is loud.
It is a lot of explosions. Kinda, or just like big energy. I don't know. For like taking over New York, I'm a little unclear about how much damage he actually did. There's some stuff on fire occasionally.
I think the third tier Spider-Man title tie-in does deal with the ramifications to New York City.
At that point, was that spectacular?
It would have. I think it is because amazing and adjective list would have been one too, right? Which one has Spider-Man fighting Sentinels? Okay, no, it is just Spider-Man. Sensational, amazing, and regular Spider-Man all have a bit to do with it, and Green Goblin. Green Goblin number 12. When Green Goblin was a goodie.
Hey, I have Green Goblin number 1. I thought it was when I was at my local coin shop, which happened to sell comics. I went and grabbed it because it had a big number 1 on it.
How much is that worth to you now?
Nothing. Probably less than the $1.25 that it was then.
Shoot, which Green Goblin is that? It's it's what's his name's kid.
Like none of the above. It's
Phil Urich. It's Phil Urich.
Yeah,
that's right. I guess the second Green Goblin was also somebody's kid.
I mean, Zack, everybody's somebody's kid.
Norman Osborn does not have parents, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Sprang forth from the ether. There
was just a really angry mirror, and he walked through it, and thus was made. Is this better or worse than Onslaught Prime? The central Onslaught.
It's probably slightly better because it at least has an issue of X-Force where there's nice things.
Okay, here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Couple spots up from this is X-Men Survival Guide to the Mansion, which is literally just like notes about what the X-Mansion's kind of like.
I feel like I would rather read an actual story, maybe?
No, I actually think that those notes are better.
Maybe so. I could be talked into that.
It was spiral bound is the thing, Chris.
It was spiral bound.
There we go. Now you're interested.
Well, now we're talking.
I think that's better than this. Oh wait. No. Okay. This is not worse than This is not worse than Captain Marvel 2 and 3 with Adam X the Extreme. What am I talking about? That's wild. It's probably better than the time that... Okay, actually, no. It's not better than X-Force and Cable Annual 97, which is when they do a return to Asgard.
Yeah.
But probably better that... It's a bad return to Asgard. It's one of their worst returns to Asgard the X-Men's ever done. It's still better than this.
I like it.
That can be 289 on our list. And now, Chris, I never have to think about Onslaught ever again until someone requests the X Factor stories or the fallout from Onslaught that we didn't cover, or that one Wolverine story where he doesn't have a nose. We forgot that Wolverine doesn't have a nose in this whole thing.
And he's wearing like a like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing across his face.
Yeah, he's doing Leonardo cosplay.
Yeah, that was wild. He even has his own. He has his own speech balloons. Like they're different. They're like a little squiggly. They're kind of.
Well, that's because he was feral at the time. He was fighting between man and beast.
Yeah, that's not portrayed super well though. He just seems like normal Wolverine to me. He just looks different, has a different speech balloon. Just in this story though, but he's not in it very much. He's in it some.
He has his own specific tie-in that we didn't talk about, where he does save somebody from a burning building.
That's great, Wolverine. This was a real Jean Grey story, weirdly.
The first 3 or 4 issues, she was the driving factor, and I think that was the strongest part of it.
Yeah, and then when I read the first issue, I was like, I thought this was supposed to be bad, and then it got bad.
It got bad real quick.
Although the first issue did have a guy who apparently was thinking about that he wanted Jean Grey to step on him with stilettos. That's something I can never forget, and now none of you can either.
Look, on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, this is a comic book for children. What are you doing, folks?
Yeah, 1996 was definitely prime. Kids are probably reading this.
Okay, so we're going to get to the postscript of the episode soon, but as we know right now, the X-Books are super horny.
Since Hoxpox, since Age of X-Man, it has been an all-new era.
Yeah, everything's horny now. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure we could get away with someone saying, oh yeah, I want her to step on me.
I don't think so either, and the comics are ostensibly not for children anymore.
I'm going to ask Jordan this. I'm going to ask him, friend of the show, Jordan D. White, who is in charge of all things X-Men and is the only man to rein Hickman in and stop his mad lust for power. I'm going to send him a DM after this and say, would you allow a writer to say, I want character to step on me in a comic book?
Please report back.
Actually, no. Guys, we're going to save this because next episode, X-Men assistant editor Chris Robinson's going to be on, and this is going to be a question for him. Chris, please tell me you don't actually listen to the podcast.
Yeah, we want him to be surprised with this. Can we write characters wanting to be
Nobody tell him.
Nobody tell him.
Nobody. If some of you, I know there is a potential that some people who work on the X-Books may hear this. I'm not saying it's a lot of you. I'm saying it's maybe 2 of you. And I know Chris is a sweetheart. Don't tell him I want him to be surprised. Anyway, our devious plans aside, I want to thank Jason Kirby for supporting the podcast in the manner he chose, which was fiscally, which is the most important thing we can do with any of our money is give it to others, specifically me and this podcast. You can do that by going over to patreon.com. There's a link. Just swipe over to notes and click it. At this point, I should have announced on Patreon the revamped structure for this, which is essentially, here's the real truth, guys. One of the rewards was a story every year, and then I realized that if 45 people do that, then we're pretty well boned from anyone new getting on the list.
It's true.
And that doesn't seem cool. So we've revamped it based on essentially that problem and that problem alone, which just means some adjustment of tiers. Just take a look, see what works for you and your budget, or if nothing does, then tell a friend, leave a review, or just like share the friggin' podcast. It's a good one, and I talk about it every week. Y'all just, if you want to hear me talk about it, go over to Twitter at Xavier Files, or on the Xavier Files Media Empire hosted on XavierFiles.com. That's where you got all the latest and greatest of X-Men news, reviews, updates, discussion posts. And we've in fact expanded because there's more comics than just X-Men. And Chris, I'd like you to talk about that right now.
Oh yeah, I'm the sub-editor for the portion of the site that covers non-X-Men, which we're calling Marvel Files because
your title is not sub-editor. It's editor.
It's editor? Okay.
It's editor. I'm editor-in-chief. You are editor.
Yeah, that's fair. We are covering Thor, the new Donny Cates run on Thor. That's with myself and Vishal Gallipoli. And also we have, they're currently writing it, so I know it's going to happen. We're covering Mortal Hulk by Al Ewing.
It's very popular, guys. We had to get in on it.
We had to get in on that Hulk action with Zach Rabarov and Robert Secundus. And then upcoming, we're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy that's going to be covered by Alison Senegal. Going to be covered by Alison Senecal and Charlie Davis. And then we are going to also have Captain Marvel being covered by my wife, Christina Eddleman, and new writer, Kat Purcell. That's also, we have our weekly three for Madness, where we cover in slightly less length 3 of each week's kind of hot titles that come out from Marvel.
Or titles we just want to talk about.
Yeah. By hot, I mean for us.
That's we can't dedicate so much time to this, but hey, let's talk about this issue of Runaways that Zach's really excited about.
Yeah, things like that. And that's a rotating cast of writers. But when this goes up, I guess we haven't decided who's writing next week's, but we will.
We'll sort it out. That's Chris's job. I don't worry about it.
Yep, I just bug people until they say I'll do it.
Yep. So what else do we got going on? Chris, what else do you do?
What else do I do? I do have a podcast with my wife, Christina Eddleman, called Chris's on Infinite Earths. You can check that out on all your you can check that out on all your podcatchers.
Which you just covered a story that would be very interesting to this group of people, right?
Yeah, we just finished up with Messiah Complex. Our last episode had a friend of both of our shows, Charlie Davis, on it. That was a good talk. We're going to be covering some DC next with Infinite Crisis, which is that's a comic. There's 7 issues of it. It's by Jeff Johns.
Good stuff. And then if they want to find you, it's at Strictly Worse.
That's true. You could find the pod at Chris's Pod on Twitter if you're so interested.
Yeah, or just look, follow my Twitter feed if you're already doing that, and then see when I retweet Chris. It happens.
It does happen.
Because we're buds, and it's been so nice to have you on the podcast, Chris. I don't know when you're going to be on next.
Yeah, that's fine. I've been on a bunch.
It's gonna be C2E.
I was gonna say I'll probably be in the background at least somewhere.
Yeah, we're gonna do our live episode from our breakfast nook. It's gonna be great.
Between the sound of us eating, it'll be great.
It's gonna be us having some biscuits, and then me and Adam being like, no one's allowed to talk but us.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Beyond that, guys, like I said, next week, assistant editor Chris Robinson, he's going to be joining me, and we're going to be talking about just all the stuff that's going on in the X office, because it's going to be, last time we talked, it was just Jordan, and the only book that he had coming out was House of X and Powers of 10. Which were 2 titles that are 1. Now so much has changed. And me and Chris are also going to talk about World War IV, which is about how Man-Thing is an X-Man character now. If y'all don't know about that, get excited.
I'm sorry, I think you mean Manslaughter.
Yeah, but people don't know what that is. Manslaughter is a Man-Thing.
He is a Man-Thing who's wearing an army helmet and he's got a big machine gun.
He's yoked. You could call him a giant-sized man thing if you wanted.
He's kind of a jolly green giant, just not jolly.
No, he's very aggressive.
He looks quite angry.
I already love him. But until then, guys, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get